Hello guys and welcome back to another Empires and Puzzles video. So in today's video I'll be talking about the Rush Attack War. So I'll be diving into the defense team building. We'll be talking about Bernadette and how to complement her on defense. Then we'll also be talking about the counters for Bernadette that you can use on offense. And lastly, we'll be setting up my rush for defense as well. So let's get started with the general tips. So rush attack, as we all know, it basically makes the mana speed for all heroes very fast. So this naturally means slow and very slow heroes will have an advantage. So I would definitely recommend using skills that are impactful like Bernadette or Lime Boyer. Fergus is another good one. But keep in mind that heroes at average or faster mana speeds can still be used, and in some cases not worth taking out for a slower hero depending on the options that you have available. So I've listed a couple options here that would work well. So I recommend heroes that are slow, impactful, heroes that revive, heroes that do mana control, whether it's moth dust, mana reduction, or anything like that. So next we'll be talking about how to complement Bearnadette. So Bearnadette, let's take a look at what she does quickly. So she'll dispel buffs from all enemies. She'll deal 250% damage to all enemies. All enemies turn into Cursed Painting for 5 turns. This effect cannot be cleansed. Cursed Painting will have 70% attack and defense, and the special skill will be Break Free, running at very fast speed. They will deal 250% damage to the target, and then each time they cast their special skill, they'll have a 60% chance of removing this ailment from them. So this status effect will transform the target into a different form, and the family bonus and special skill of the new form are determined by the status effect. And of course, bosses, titans, and mythic titans are not affected by the status effect. So I think you can see how Bernadette can be impactful in Rush. She is very slow speed, but in Rush, it'll make her very fast. She has a priority dispel, so you'll need either some sort of undispellable protection against her, and then that cursed painting cannot be cleansed as well. So I think you can see why she is annoying. So if you have Bernadette, definitely put her at tank. Her stats are slightly dated, but her skill is pretty impactful, and if she goes off once, then the battle is usually pretty hard to recover from. So the first group of heroes that complement her on Rush pretty well are Scoundrels with the Ransack ability. So these guys will have the ability to steal buffs, undispellable buffs included, which will help when the attacker takes a taunt hero like Oni Wakamaru, or a setup that requires some sort of buff like Alpha Taunt, for example. So Scoundrels could definitely disrupt that, and I think Scoundrels are pretty good in defense as well in general. Next is heroes that cleanse on special skill hit. So this will include Demons and Beowulf. So if you place one of these heroes flanking Bernadette, it can limit the attacker's counters and chance to apply ailments. For Beowulf, for one or two heroes, it's 75 or a 100% chance to cleanse a status ailment from all allies. And for the demons, it's either a 60 or 85% chance to cleanse from all allies. So these heroes are pretty good when the attacker is bringing a hero like Starlass or Medea, for example, or just just any sort of hit all or hit three hero that will neutralize Bernadette normally with an ailment. These guys have a pretty decent chance to cleanse, and uh, they also have pretty decent stats and good specials as well. So these are definitely recommended. Next is Moth Dust and Deep Sleep. So this is a good way to control and disrupt mana, especially in a format where only 6 tiles are needed for a skill cast. So in Rush you only need 2 3-tile matches or 6 tiles in total to get your special. But if you have a Moth on defense and the attacker happens to get Moth Dust, then you'll need more than 6 tiles, which could be deadly when facing Bernadette, because again it's usually very hard to recover from if Bernadette does go off. So Moth Dust is a pretty interesting effect to use in Rush, but I don't recommend putting 3 or 4 moths since the enemy can use that to their advantage and use heroes like like dwarves or woodland fawns that gain mana. Next is Alpha Taunters. So Alpha Taunt lasts for 3 turns, and if the attacker gets their special skill in 2 turns, they still need to wait out the Alpha Taunt because it lasts for 3 turns to use the specials, and this could buy you some valuable time because they have to make another match, and that match could have potential to cascade or anything, having the chance to turn the tides of the battle. And it's definitely pretty nerve-wracking and annoying to wait out that last turn of Alpha Taunt. So if you tuck one of these heroes in the flank or the wing, then they normally do fine. The next group of heroes that I recommend is Mana Control. So they are strong effects that negate enemies' special skill usage, and these guys are very useful and impactful, and it's also very hard to recover from. Like Hridemar here, she cuts mana by 50%. The Beast and Happy Gui gives Mindless, Yvette gives Paralyze, for example, and these heroes are the type that will deal a lot of damage and be very impactful. Next is a revive or an ailment block. So a reviver is another huge threat, and by huge threat I mean when people take teams to counter Bernadette, they usually only account for Bernadette, so they only bring counters for her. But you do have 4 other heroes that you also need to take out, and sometimes those teams with those counters, especially older ones, will not have enough damage to take out the entire team. And if Bernadette is gone, but there is still a reviver, then the threat still remains. And then ailment blocking, including dances, can limit the opponent's offensive counters as well. And lastly, this is a special one. It's pretty old, but heroes like Astrid, Bonzo, Salamata, even though these are a little old if you're playing in mid levels, these bards make it so that dances and ballads last for only 1 turn, limiting the opponent's dance counters. So if you bring someone like Von Rothberg, Sludges, Guardian Gazelle, and the enemy, and you have Astrid on the opposition, then your dances will only last for 1 turn, making it so that you have to time it correctly. So it's definitely pretty annoying to have a bard on rush defense. Alright, that is how to set up your defense. Next, we'll be taking a look at how to attack Bearnadette. So we'll be looking at 3 different types of counters: self-protection, team protection, and offensive counters. Starting with self-protection, these are heroes that have passives or an ability to protect themselves from the undispellable, uncleansable ailment. So starting off with the Toons, they have a 75% chance to resist. Next, the Glass will have a 60% chance to reflect that cursed painting. The Mimic Shield, so every time these Mimics cast their special skill, they give themselves the Mimic effect where they hide in their little shield for 2 turns. And while they're in that effect, they cannot have any damage received or take any new status ailments, so pretty good against Bernadette. Next is defensive full removal. So these heroes cast full removal on themselves, and while they're in that full removal form, Bernadette will not be able to hit them with the cursed painting. Next is hiding, and ambush works basically the same way. When they're in the hiding or ambush form, they cannot gain any new status ailments. Next is the ghost form. It's quite situational, but if one of your ghost family members are in their ghost form, then they will not be able to receive the cursed painting effect. And if they do have cursed painting and then the enemy hits you for more than 25% health, it will activate your ghost form and remove the cursed painting effect. And lastly is the empowered tune, so they'll have a 75% chance to resist plus a 5% mana bonus every time they successfully resist. So these are the self-protection counters. Let's take a look at some offensive counters now. Starting off with the obvious one, the cursed painting, you can either use Bernadette herself or Lord Loki. Next is the offensive ghost. You cast this effect on the enemy and they won't be able to take any damage, but they also can't attack, gain mana, or use their special skill, buying you some decent time. Next is effect blocking. So if you cast one of these heroes on Bearnadette, they will give an ailment, and that ailment basically makes it so that the hero with that ailment cannot cast any new effects, buffs, and ailments on enemies or allies. So pretty good against Bearnadette, but you do have to be slightly careful when using someone like Tarun or Chang Yi. If the opponent has a demon or a Beowulf family member. Next is silence. Now, silence basically makes it so that the enemy cannot cast their special skill. So it's a pretty good counter. Again, there is the threat of demons and Beowulf, but if you choose your targets wisely, then it's going to be pretty effective. Next is mindless attack and heal. So sometimes these heroes will be hit threes, hit multiples like Happy Gui or the Beast. Cupido is a hit three, Quintus is a hit three, for example, and others will be snipers like Mina. So this basically makes it so that the opponent will not be able to cast their special skill and it will drain mana and deal a little bit of damage to their own team. So pretty good counter. Again, you do have to be slightly careful of the demons and Beowulf. Next is paralysis. So paralysis basically makes it so that after one turn of this effect being applied, then the enemies will not be able to gain mana, attack, or cast their special skills for a set amount of turns. And again, you do have to be extremely careful of demons and Beowulf. Same thing goes for mana cut. Mana cut is basically when the enemy reaches 100% mana, it cuts a specific amount of mana, like 50%, and then the enemy takes set amount of damage. Next is Deep Sleep. Deep Sleep is pretty good for mana disruption, and if you have one of the moths, then you also get the added bonus of that moth dust effect. Next is block mana gain. So if you manage to get one of these heroes off on Bernadette when she's not flashing yet, then you'll be able to buy some valuable time for you to get the rest of your specials. Next one is uh, slightly up to chance, which is insanity. But if you have good combos like double Atwood with Garden, for example, then it's pretty likely that the opponent is going to backfire. And if they do happen to backfire, then that is absolutely huge for you. And lastly is just a normal mana reduction or a mana steal. So that is offensive counters that give an ailment or hit Bernadette, avoiding her using her special your or delaying the inevitable. And lastly, we'll be looking at team protection counters. So let's start up top here. First, we have defensive dancing. These heroes cast dance on themselves or allies to protect from the Bernadette painting effect. Next is Elemental Red Reflect. So these heroes, there's only three plus Amu's costume that does this. So these heroes basically make it so that all damage and status ailments from red special skills or fire special skills get reflected back, and this effect is undispellable. So that is red elemental reflect. Next is undispellable taunt. Of course, you have Oni Wakamaru and Azorius, who gives himself reflect against red, including status ailments, buff dispels, and any form of damage. So that counts as undispellable taunt. Next is Undispellable Ailment Immunity. We have Aramis, who gives it straight up, and Skiff, who gives a combination of Dispel blocking and also Ailment Immunity. Next, we'll be taking a look at Team Up counters. Now, Team Up counters are counters that you need multiple heroes to pair together in order to counter Bernadette's Dispel and resist the painting effect. So first up we have Taunt. Taunt will work with Dispel block because the Dispel block will block the taunt from getting affected and only your taunter will get affected with the cursed painting. Soft Skin works the same way. Ailment Immunity and Ailment Reflect will make it so that when they dispel the taunt from the taunter. The other four enemies with the ailment immunity or ailment reflect will not be dispelled, and they will have protection. Now the downside to this is the taunter that you have will get affected by the cursed painting, but it's still better than having all five of your heroes uh, get affected at the same time. The spell block obviously works with taunt and also works with ailment immunity and ailment reflect. So works with taunt, we went through that, and ailment immunity and ailment reflect can be dispelled, but when you pair it with dispel block, then Bernadette's dispel part will not work, and those ailments will either be resisted or reflected. Next is soft skin, works the same way as dispel block, so it's gonna work with taunt, ailment immunity, or ailment reflect. Next is ailment immunity. It will work with taunt, dispel block, or soft skin. And ailment reflect works the same way as ailment immunity, works with taunt, dispel, or soft skin. And be very careful about ailment reflect. These are the only heroes that would work. Heroes like Goldie, Milady the Winter, for example, they have a small blue question mark that says only cleansable status ailments are reflected, and obviously Bernadette's status ailment is uncleansable, so that will not work. So these are all the counters that you can use against Bernadette. If I'm missing anyone, please leave them down below in the comment section. Now in the next section, I'll be talking about my rush defense setup, so I'll be back in a second. Alright, we are back in the preparation phase of the rush attack war. As you can see here, I haven't updated my defense, so we'll do that together. Now, obviously, we want a Bernadette tank. My Bernadette's only at level 85, but in rush, the skills are more impactful than the stats. Now, obviously, she's still weak, and I don't have the matching troop for her, but even if she goes off once, then it's going to be pretty hard to recover from. And you'll see why I'm running a level 85 Bearnadette, because I will be running two revivers actually. One is Astrid with the quick tempo ballad and quick tempo dance passive, limiting the opponent's counters. Next, on the other side, I will be running Dancrag as another reviver and a hero that gives ailment immunity. Next, we would want to run some mana control, so I think I'll do Lime Boyer here. I'll put her on the left flank because I don't want two greens on the right, and I want two greens next to Bernadette in case they take heavy blue. So Lime Boyer is very slow speed, she deals damage, and then all enemies fall into deep sleep, and she is also a Moth family member, so she'll give a small bit of mana control there. And lastly, for the right wing position, let's put in Bryn. She is another slow hero. She can ransack. She deals a lot of damage, and she applies sleep. She also has the ransack thing where she steals a dis a buff from the enemy and includes stubborn effects, undispellable buffs, and dance effects, which will be pretty annoying to go up against. So troop wise, we don't have a troop for Lime Boyer and Bearnadette, but again, I think this defense will do pretty well. We have three pretty good rush heroes here in Lime Boyer, Bernadette, and Bryn, and as a backup plan, we have Astrid and Dancrag. So this is my defense for the upcoming Rush War. If you have any suggestions on how I can improve my defense, definitely drop them down below. Now this is all for the video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.